Hi, I'm Esther Givant, Esther Kramer Givant. I was born in Chicago on 6/12/32. My parents were Hyman and Rose Kramer. I grew up in Omaha, and my parents had a small grocery store in the northern part of Omaha. Um, I had a wonderful childhood. I have a sister who was mentally challenged, who we grew up with. It was hard for a while for my mother to accept the reality that my sister was never going to be normal, but she tried. She took her to doctors and psychologists and everything. And of course, in those days, they didn't have schools for special education students, and so my mother wanted her to get an education of some sort. So she took her to a tutor who tutored these type of children, and she did very well. She learned how to read and became able to tell time and basically fend for herself. She is currently living in a wavered home for mentally challenged people here in Des Moines, Iowa. When my parents died, I took care of her for 10 years. She lived with me. And finally, I was instrumental in building a shalom home for the community for mentally challenged uh, Jewish people. Uh, that home lasted for 15 years and now is currently has been sold. It was called the Shalom Home and has been sold. And each of the residents now live in what they call wavered homes, which are homes for 3 or 4 residents. I grew up, went to Monmouth Park High School, grade school rather, and Central High School. Uh, my parents lived 2 blocks from North, but they said I had to go to uh, Central High School because there weren't any Jewish kids at North. She wanted me with Jewish kids, and I adored Central. I had a wonderful time. I met lots and lots of nice people who I still am in touch with and enjoy hearing from them. And I had a happy teenage life, busy, belonged to BBGs, the consulates. There were so many different clubs that we were able to belong to, and we had all kinds of meetings. Went to the Jewish Community Center after school, went there on Sundays, went to the dances that they had, the AZA, BBG, all of those groups. And it was very enjoyable. I enjoyed every minute of my teenage years. Um, when I graduated from high school, I went to work for my cousin Ben Cutler, who was a dentist. He taught me how to be a dental assistant, which I did for the time that I worked with him. Part time, I went to University of Omaha, and I went there for a year and a half, and then I got married at the age of 19 to my husband Melvin Givant. We've been married for 51 years rather. Um, and it's been fun, shall I say. Um, my family consists of my husband, and I have 4 children, my daughter Sherry and my daughter Debbie, and I have twin boys, David and Danny. Um, my family, I had a lot of cousins, and we were a very close family while I was growing up. I had a cousin, Sal Cohen, who was like a brother to me. We were both the same age, just a matter of a couple of months difference. And we grew up, and he had a sister, Annie, who lives now in California. Sal also lives in California now. He is now called Robert S. Benton. He changed his name, but he's still Sally Benny Cohen to me. But anyway, and then we had family in Council Bluffs, Ben and Sal Cutler, and my uncle Arl, Harry, and my aunt Hysora, Sarah. And Annie and I, as children, would used to go on vacation to Council Bluffs for during the summer for 1 week. We would drive. My uncle Harry would drive us to I can't remember exactly the name, but it was a small time for frozen soft serve ice cream. They were the only ones at that time that had it. And so we would go and have a wonderful time. My Uncle Harry always drove a Chrysler. He always had a nice new Chrysler, and we'd eat our ice cream, Annie and I. My aunt took us to Fairmount Park in Council Bluffs. To They had a wading pool, which we thought was great. They also had swings and slides. They also had a big hill that I remember rolling down it one day and skinning my knee very badly. But we had a heck of a good time. Then we would go to the movies. When we stayed with my aunt, Sal would sleep on the porch, kind of an enclosed porch, and Annie and I would laugh. He'd be sleeping, We thought that was so funny, His feet were sticking out every which way, but we thought that was really funny, and we just had a wonderful time. We looked through my aunt's drawers for the beautiful costume jewelry, and we'd get all dressed up with it, and we thought we were beautiful. But anyway, and then my mother and her sisters. My mother had 4 sisters, 5 actually. One of them passed away, but and we would go there every Sunday. They would trade houses, and the whole family would go there every Sunday and enjoy dinner. One sister would have it one Sunday, the other sister the other Sunday.
Esther, can you tell me the names of each of your mother's sisters?
Yes. My mother's oldest sister's name was Zelda Molnick. My next one was Sarah Cutler, and she had Sol and Ben Cutler were her sons. The next one was Leah Bomber, and she had 3 children. And then there was Molly Cohen, who had 3 children. And then my parents, who had 2 children. Ruchel was my mother's name. They called her Rose.
How did the family end up in the Omaha, Nebraska area?
I really don't know. I think my uncle originally went to Council Bluffs. He was the first one to come over, and he brought all the other sisters there. My mother went to Chicago first. I think she lived in Council Bluffs first, and then she went to Chicago where she met my father. My father had been married once before, and he lost his wife in childbirth, and he married my mother. My mother had been married previously too, and just for a short time, and she was married to a man from Council Bluffs, Iowa, and I think she met my father in Chicago, or I don't know exactly how that happened, but I was born in Chicago, so evidently she worked for Marshall Fields as a seamstress. Her father in Russia was a tailor, and all the girls were very good at sewing. My mother, like I said, wound up in Marshall Fields as a seamstress, and she worked for some of the very high-class ladies, making garments or alterations. And I was born in Chicago at the Edgewater Beach Hospital in 1932. And then shortly after that, my mother moved back to Omaha, where most of her family was.
What about your father's side of the family?
My father's side, I understand that there were 9 children on my father's side. When they left Europe, he never knew what happened to some of his siblings. One of his siblings was a rabbi in Cape Town, South Africa, and he also had a sister who was in Cape Town, South Africa. He had a brother, Joe, who lived in Chicago, and he had a brother, Morris, who lived in Milwaukee. But as far as the rest of his family was concerned, he had no idea where they were.
Do you remember when your mother came to this country?
My mother came when she was 12 years old, so it must have been, she was born in 1900, it was 1912.
And how about your father?
My father, I don't know exactly when he came to this country. My father didn't talk a lot about his past. My mother told us stories about living in a small town in Russia, but my father really never talked about being his background. He really didn't. The only thing I do know, he was in the service, and for a while, World War I, and but he was quiet man. He didn't talk too much.
I want to take you back to your grade school days and have you tell me about that, some of your memories.
My grade school days were fun. It was, you know, I don't know. It was, in some ways it was traumatic. Some ways it wasn't. The traumatic part about it was that my mother, since my sister was, she wanted her to go to school. And she made me take Faye to school. Well, Faye couldn't be in school because she couldn't keep up with the rest of them. So the principal would say, Esther, you need to take Faye home. So I'd schlep my sister Faye home and cry all the way home. And then my mother would wait a while and send her back again. And the same thing would happen over and over again. So finally she gave up and got a tutor for her. But my days were happy. I mean, there weren't any Jewish kids in my class. It was on the north side. It was mostly, a white, Christian. I lived 2 blocks from North, but I went to Central because of the Jewish, wanted to be with Jewish children. My mother wanted me to be with Jewish children. And, no, I didn't have any problems.
When you got to Central, who were some of your friends?
Oh, there was Maxine Abramson, there was Renee Plotkin, Handelman, I should say now. Renee was a good friend of mine. Kenny Rundell, Diane Bogdanoff, Fern Cattleman. Fern and I were very close. We had a very good relationship. There were so many. I had so many friends. I really can't remember them all. Betty Epstein. Ethel Nachman. Babe, as we used to call her. Golly, there were a lot of them.
Esther, are you still in touch with a lot of these girls?
Renee, I'm in touch with. I really don't hear, they kind of scattered. We all have our own lives to live, and after 50-some years, but I really don't hear from a lot of them. We went to our 50th reunion. I reconnected with some of them, but other than that, other than Renee and that's about it.
What were some of the parties like that you went to?
Oh, we had some great parties. The clubs, the AZA and BBG, and actually it was a whole, I don't know what, Jewish Council or whatever it was called. They would have the mixers on Saturday night. They used to have the stage night where all the clubs performed. They entered a skit and they declare who would be the winner. There was the BBGs, there were Consolettes, I can't remember some of the other groups, but there were 5 or 6 different groups and we'd have contests and we'd perform the girls would write these scripts and we'd perform and they choose them. But I remember I would love going to the Jewish Community Center and watching the basketball games on Sunday. The guys, Benny Nachman, Mo Handelman, there were so many of the guys that played basketball, and that was fun. That was really fun. It was a way to kill the day, and we just had a ball. And it was wonderful. And even going after school from Central over to the Jewish Community Center, we just had such a good time all the time. Yes, and at AZA 7 too, from Council Bluffs, there were a lot of parties there too. I remember the hay rack rides. We did a lot of things.
How did you get back and forth from home to Central?
Streetcar. Took a long time. I have to get up very early in the morning and take the streetcar. And there was one other, what was her name? Kaplan girl. Marilyn Kaplan, who also lived on the north side. So she'd usually got on the same streetcar that I did, and we'd chat. But that's how I got to school.
Esther, in growing up, can you describe the house you lived in?
Oh, yes. Well, when we first, my parents had a grocery store. Well, we lived behind the grocery store for quite a number of years. Two rooms back there, a living room combined with a bedroom, and a kitchen and the bathroom, and it was very small. And then the people who lived next door moved, and my parents bought that house, so that's where we lived.
What kind of heat did you have in those days?
A furnace with coal.
Was it your job to put the coal in
No,
the
that
furnace?
was my father's job.
I want to hear how you met your husband, Mel.
My husband was, his cousin, Ida, was married to my cousin, Ben Molnick. And that's how I had met Mel. Mel also had a cousin who lived in Omaha, Ruthie Kraft. And she would call the boys here in Des Moines and say, come on down, I've got some dates for you. Mel and his cousin Sonny Glazer and Marvin Givant, and there were a couple other guys that were friends of his, Dave Farber, and he'd come down there with all these guys, and she'd fix them up with everyone. So I got fixed up with Melvin. So one day, and we started. He'd come into Des Moines, and and I'd once in a while come here, but to Des Moines. But he'd come to Omaha and we'd do something. Not much, believe me. Peony Park maybe once in a while, occasionally. Movie once in a while. But Mel also worked very hard when he was. His father had had a heart attack, and so they were in the auto parts business, and he had to take a lot of the responsibility at 17 years of age on. So he had to stay at work till 5 o'clock and then get on Highway 6 to come to Omaha. And then he'd go back Sunday on Highway 6 back home, and he'd be pooped the next day, and his mother would pinch him and tell him he had to get up and go to work or go to school. But it was, it was a lot. We were young then. Made a difference.
When did you get married?
Got married in March 16th, 1952,
And where?
at Beth Israel Synagogue.
Can you tell me about your wedding?
Yes, I can. It was a nice, very nice. Of course, my mother had been living for a wedding, her daughter to get married for a long, long time, and so we had the wedding. It was very nice. My mother did a good job. It was a kosher dinner at Beth Israel. Everything was right at Beth Israel Synagogue. Kosher wedding, dance afterwards, and we had a lot of people there. I still have my cousin Sal took movies at that time. That was a new thing, and he took the movies of our wedding, which I still have. They're 8mm camera, but we still play them every once in a while.
Who were the members of your wedding party?
There was Phil Abramson, who was a cousin of mine, Sal Cohn, Sal Cutler, Eli Galinsky was also a friend of my husband's who was there. My sister was in there, Kenny Rundell. My husband's sister Jeanette. And we had Laura Cutler who was Ben Cutler's daughter, was our flower girl. And my Melvin's nephew, Dennis Galinsky, he was the ring bearer.
Where did you go on your honeymoon?
Chicago, and the funniest thing is we took the train to Chicago, and on the train was Melvin's uncle. So that's...
So you had company on your
Yeah,
honeymoon.
he was going back. He was from Chicago, so he was going back to Chicago. So we had company on our so-called honeymoon. We were there for maybe 2 days at the most.
Where did you stay?
Edgewater Beach Hotel, and it was lovely. It was lovely.
Do you remember that honeymoon very well? What you did? You went
Well, I
dinner.
had an uncle who would come to visit us, take us out to dinner a couple of times. But we didn't really do a lot. We, walked around the streets, and we had no transportation, so we just kind of hung around. But it was nice.
At that time, you moved to Des Moines.
Then we moved to Des Moines, and Melvin. We had an apartment. We got an apartment near Drake University. Melvin worked, and then I got a job, and I worked at bank, which was Banker's Life at that time. It's Principal now, and I worked there for a year till I became pregnant, and then we moved to Beaverdale, a suburb, and bought a house there, and we lived there for 10 years. We outgrew the house. I had 4 children. I had uh, 2 girls, and then we had the twin boys, and we had no more room, so we had to move elsewhere. So we built a house in Windsor Heights in Des Moines, and we've lived there for 41 years. I want to talk about my children now. My oldest daughter is Sherry, and she is a teacher at junior high. She teaches English, has been teaching for 28 years, enjoys her job. She has 2 children, 2 girls, Lindsay, who is 23, and Alexis, who is 16. And my second daughter is Debbie Rasher, and she lives in Chesterfield, Missouri. She is also a teacher. She's a preschool teacher. She teaches pre-kindergarten in it's a private school, and the school has been there for, in fact, her husband went to that school when he was a child. So, and she's been teaching there for a number of years, and she really enjoys it. I have twin sons, David and Danny, who were born in May of 16. They're going to be they're going to be 46 years old. Well, they're 45. So, and they are in business with my husband right now. He's in the auto salvage business, and they really never were interested in school. They went to DMAC, which is a junior college, for a year, and then decided that wasn't for them. My oldest daughter graduated from Drake University, and my younger daughter graduated from the University of Missouri. But they had no interest in school. They loved cars, and that's what they wanted to do, and that's what they're still doing now. Now I'd like to talk about my grandchildren. I have 7 grandchildren who are between the ages of 23 and 2 years of age. My oldest granddaughter is Lindsay. Lindsay is working now as a customer service rep for Verizon. She enjoys it very, very much. She had been in retail for a number of years, became a little disillusioned with it. She says, "Grandma, I got tired of folding clothes." So she decided that she would try something different, and this opportunity came up for her to work at Verizon, and that's what she's doing. My next granddaughter is 17, and she's a senior at high school in Chesterfield, Missouri, and she'll be graduating next year. And then I have another granddaughter who is 16, and she goes to Valley High School here in Des Moines. She's working as a hostess right now at Champ's Restaurant, and is loving every minute of it. I have twin grandchildren who Kyle and Kim, who are 12 years old. Will be having a B'nai Mitzvah next year during Labor Day. Then I have Noah, who is 6. He's currently attending, he's 6 years old, but he's the size of an 8-year-old. He is currently attending the downtown school in Des Moines, which is an all-day kindergarten. He missed the deadline. That's why he's 6 years old and in kindergarten. But anyway, he's very, very, very bright. And then there's Zoe, his little sister, who just turned 2 and rules the roost. I want to talk about my cousins now. My oldest cousin was Ben Cutler, and very, very fine young man. I adored him. As a matter of fact, I worked for him while I was going to college. He trained me to be a dental assistant, and I worked for him till I got married. And what a charming, charming, magnificent guy. Sal, his younger brother, um, he was sing and he would be pleasant and everything, and he was full of dynamite. He always liked doing things. Then my next cousin would be the Cohens, Sal Cohen and Annie Cohen. Sal was quite the entrepreneur. He wound up being had an import export business in California, but he was something else. He would he was a clown. He was a performer. He sang. He danced. What he didn't do. And as a matter of fact, at Central High, he was in the always part of the stage show cast or in the makeup department or something. He was very busy. He loved anything with entertainment. For years, I guess he was in California. He played I can't remember the clown's name, but he was always was a clown. He entertained children then. Annie is a school. His sister Annie is a school teacher in Van Nuys, California. Uh, she um, her husband is an engineer, and she has two boys. Uh, I miss the Bomber family, which was the older, came right after Sal and Cutler. There was Sal Bomber, Esther Bomber, Morgan now, and Lowell Bomber. Um, Sal was very talented. He was an artist. He was a singer, and I don't know. I don't know whatever happened to him, and I don't think any of the family knows what happened to him. Esther is living in California. She's married to Robert Morgan from Omaha. He's an accountant. Um, I've lost contact with her. I don't know. I think she has 3 children. Um, and then there's, let's see, Saul and there was my Ben Molnick, who has passed away, and Harry and Phil Molnick too. They were my oldest aunt's children. So, and they're all deceased as of now. But it was fun. We used to have our times together. Let's see, did I miss any of the cousins? I think I've got them all. I think I have. Okay. Well, when I moved to Des Moines, I was newlywed, didn't know how to cook, didn't know anything. At that time I had applied, since I had worked for Ben, I had applied for a job working as a dental assistant to a dentist here in Des Moines. When Melvin heard the hours that I was going to be working, he put a kibosh on that immediately. So anyway, I wound up working for a year at Banker's Life, and then I had my children, and I was at home. I cooked, and I cleaned, and I cooked, and I cleaned, and it was, of course, I had Sherry was my oldest, and that was fine, a girl, and then we had another girl, Debbie, which was fine, but Melvin really wanted a boy very badly, and so I became pregnant for the 3rd time, and we were hoping so much for a boy, and our doctor knew that we wanted a boy so badly too. So came the time for me to deliver my 3rd child, and go into the hospital, and I come out with 2 children. I had twins. Mel was sitting in the waiting room, waiting for. In fact, he knew one of the doctors there, and he said to him, "Have you seen my wife? What's going on back there with my wife? Do you know what's happening?" So this friend of his said, "Well," he says, "you're going to be surprised." And pretty soon our doctor came out and came up to Mel and said, Mel, I know you wanted a boy really badly." He says, "How would 2 boys do?" So we had twin boys, and Mel was on top of the world. But yeah, it was difficult. We lived in a 2-bedroom house with 4 children, and we lived there for about a year before we built another house and moved out. But it was not fun. Four of them under the age of 6, so it was quite a handful between the laundry and the cooking. It was pretty tough.
During those years, Esther, was Mel coming home at a decent hour?
No, not really. Those days he worked 7 days a week. They were open on Saturday and half a day on Sunday, so he wasn't around too much. But we had our good times when he was home. We played in the week. I remember there was a blizzard one time. We had all the kids out in the snow building snowmen rolling around. I have pictures of it, and it was just a fun time. We didn't go anywhere. We would hire a babysitter for a quarter an hour. I think we paid the babysitter at that time. And you know where we'd go? We'd go out to the airport and watch the planes land. But that was our fun. I mean, it was just getting away from the house. So that's what we did. We took a ride. Yeah, just to get away from the everyday stuff.
Now, later that Mel and the boys are in the business together, what's a typical day like for you?
For me, I'm very active in activities. I'm active in our synagogue. I was at one time before I was instrumental in getting the Shalom home together, which took up a lot of time. I've been involved in a lot of organizations over the years, and that has taken up a lot of my time. And playing mahjong.
Now, I think I've heard from someone that you have dinners with lots of people here.
Yes, I do. I have my family every Friday night. And not only my family, lots of times I have visitors. My granddaughter will say, Grandma, do you have enough food tonight? Because I'd like to bring so-and-so over. And I say, sure, I'll just put another plate on the table. So we never know whether we're going to have 10 or 15 for dinner. But my kids enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. To be honest with you, if I didn't do it, I don't think I'd see my kids. But I do it. I do it every Friday night, and we have a good time. We sit there and laugh. And the little one, I have the 2-year-old Zoe when she was, and well, actually with all of our children when they were little. We sit around Friday night. If somebody would walk in, they'd think we were nuts because there's all these adults around the table going, "Itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout." And that's what we do. Zoe is 2, and that's all she sings is "Itsy bitsy spider." She's been singing since she was 6 months old. And so have we. But we have fun. We laugh, and it's great. It's great. It really is.
Now, I also understand that Passover is a special time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We keep Passover, all the time. My kids come over, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But I don't mind. I pack the lunch. My boys come over in the morning for breakfast, fried matzah, and then when Mel comes home for lunchtime, I make sandwiches out of those hard rolls you make at Passover. And he takes down their lunches, and they come over for dinner. So and by the 8th day, I'm ready to collapse. But it's worth every minute of it.
It's a labor of love, isn't it?
It is. It's just, they love it. You know what? The best part is to see their faces when they eat. In fact, just this past Rosh Hashanah, after the meal, my son Danny sat back and he says, "Mom, that's what you call a meal." And you know what? That's worth every hour that I put into it, just to hear somebody say, "Mom, that was a great meal."
You know they appreciate it.
Yes.
And you know they want to be here.
Yes, yes. And they ask my husband every Friday night, "Dad, what's Mom cooking tonight?" But it's, and in fact, if my grandkids call, they say, "Grandma, what are you making tonight for dinner?" They have to know too, but it's worth every minute of it. This is a picture of my mother's family, her mother and her father and her siblings, and one of her brother-in-laws. This was taken in Russia, I don't know how many years ago, but It's a very, I enjoy seeing this picture because I really never knew my grandfather and I never knew my grandmother. But it's kind of nice to be able to see all this on a picture. Uh, my mother is on the top right hand side of the picture. She was probably around 12 years old at that time. Her mother and father are the man with the beard, with the woman with the shawl. Um, Her name was Hannah and his name was Sally. Um, the woman with the two children sitting in front of her and the baby in her arms was Zelda, and she was the oldest sister, and she was married to Alec Yarmolnik. And as far as the other two, I really don't know which is which. On the bottom left is my Aunt Malka Cohen, and her husband is right behind her. My mother is Rose Kramer, and Ben Cutler is right behind her. And then Sarah Cutler is right on the right hand side, and her son Saul is behind. Ben and Saul are Sarah's children, and that's who they are. In this picture on the right hand side is my mother, uh, Rose Ruchel, they called her, uh, and on the left hand side is Leah Bomber, her sister. This is a picture of my children. On the left hand side, we have Davy, who works with my husband in the business. And on the right hand side is Danny, his twin brother, who also works for my husband. Um, they were good kids. They weren't, I thought, oh, twins, I'll never be able to raise twins, but with two other children, but they were good. They were really good boys. I was very proud of them. I'm still proud of them. My daughter on the left-hand side, the blonde, is a school teacher at junior high school. She teaches English and has been teaching for 28 years. My daughter, the dark-haired one, is a teacher, a pre-kindergarten teacher in Chesterfield, Missouri. She has been teaching there for about 8 years, and she is married to an accountant, and they have 3 children. Sherry has 2 girls. My other daughter, Sherry, and the boys. On the left hand side, Davy. He is not married, and Danny's married and has 2 children.
Hi, I'm Sherry Gold. I'm the oldest daughter of Esther Givant, and I'm here to say a few things about my mother. My mother is one of the kindest, most generous people that anyone could meet. She has always been there for me and for my daughters, Lindsay, who is 23, and Alexis, who is 16. She's actually been kind of a second mother to both of my girls, and they always know that they can come over if they need something. She is always there for them. If I ever needed her to babysit, if I ever needed her to be a caretaker, I knew that all I had to do was pick up the phone and call my mom. She works hard for her synagogue and is truly loved by the people around her. You couldn't find anyone that has a kinder heart than my mother. She would do anything and give her last dollar to you. She has been there for me through a lot of difficult times, and she is always there for the happy times. There's nothing that I could possibly say about her that isn't kind, because she touches the heart of every single person that she meets. She means a lot to me and my children, who, even if they have a problem that they want to discuss with her, they come over and see my mother. Sometimes they talk to her before they even talk to me, which I find to be a real honorable quality. especially with the young kids for today. They usually don't go to their grandparents, but my girls both depend on and rely on my mother for support, and she's always there to give it to them.
My children, I love you all. I am very, very fortunate to have kids like you. You've never given me any problems. Uh, I've appreciated everything you've done. The boys mowing, Danny mowing the lawn in the summertime, Davy coming over and doing the driveway in the wintertime, Sherry loving us and appreciating us for what we do for her, Debbie for all that she does, her kind heart. She's just, they're wonderful, wonderful children. I don't know if I did a good job or they were born that way, but it's wonderful not to have to worry about them. They're all self-sufficient. Of course, you do worry about certain things, but I love you, and you take good care of us by what you say to us, the way you treat us. That's the most important thing in our lives, are you and how you feel about us and how we feel about you. Now I want to say something about my grandchildren. My grandchildren are the joy of my life. You all are. From the little one who says, "Grandpa, money in my pocket," to the oldest one who says, "Grandma, I love you," to all of the ones below, Noah, who tells me, "I love you, Grandma, and I want to come to your house," and he talks to me, and he's so filled with so many different stories. He's so intelligent. And all my oldest granddaughter, who was a sweetheart, Samantha, who is a wonderful, wonderful young woman. I hope she has much luck when she starts to college next year. To Kim and Kyle, who I went to your school to, and you wrote these wonderful biographies about Grandpa and me that I'll cherish forever and keep in my heart forever, because there's something that nobody else has ever done for me like that. It's wonderful. I just can't. And Alexis, who is smiley and bright and happy, may you always stay that way, all of you.